There's a technique so effective that some fishermen consider it unfair. It's no exaggeration. The difference is so stark it seems like cheating. You go to the lake, choose your spot, and instead of waiting for the fish to pass by, you literally attract them to you. Sounds impossible? A fisherman tested this on the same lake, same day, same bait. First rod, traditional method. Second rod, this technique. Result, 27 fish versus 8. Same conditions, same skill. The only difference was a detail the fishing industry never taught you because it would ruin their business of expensive baits. If this is your first time here, subscribe and turn on notifications. What you're about to learn in the next few minutes could completely change your next fishing trip. Let me tell you what happened at a lake in Tennessee 2 months ago. Mike, a fisherman with 15 years of experience, was frustrated. He was spending over $80 a month on brand-name lures. The results? Mediocre. Some good days, many bad days. He would wake up at 5 a.m., drive an hour to the lake, set up all the expensive equipment he had bought, and come home with 3-4 bass if he was lucky. Some days, he would come home empty-handed. He began to question whether it was worth it. The money he spent, the time he invested, the results didn't compensate. That's when he remembered something his grandfather used to do decades ago, back in the 60s and 70s. The old man caught fish every single day. It didn't matter if it was hot, cold, cloudy, or sunny. He always came back with a full bucket. Mike decided to test it. He prepared 2 identical rods, same 12-pound line, same half-ounce weight, same green plastic worm with glitter. The difference lay in what he did before casting the second rod. He arrived at the spot at 6:15 a.m. Calm water, temperature around 68 degrees, sky beginning to lighten. He cast the first rod using the traditional method he always used. 5 minutes later, he executed the old technique in the area of the second rod. In the first hour, the traditional rod caught 3 bass. Not bad, he thought. The second rod? 11 bass. He couldn't believe it. He checked everything. The bait was the same. The depth was practically identical, about 8 feet of water. What the heck was happening? When the sun began to set, around 4:30 p.m., the difference became even more absurd. The first rod had added 5 more fish throughout the day, a total of 8. The second rod didn't stop. He caught 16 more bass until 6 p.m. End of the day, first rod had 8 fish. The second had 27. He weighed everything separately. The difference was 18.4 pounds of fish. Same water, same fisherman, same equipment, same technical skill in presentation. He wasn't casting better on one rod than the other. The only variable controlled was what he had done before he started fishing. When he got home, he did the math. The lures he used cost $8. The synthetic attractant you had in his tackle box that you didn't use cost $18 a bottle and lasted 4 fishing trips. What did he use on the second rod? It cost $130. He did it at home in 15 minutes, and he destroyed any results I had ever achieved with store-bought products. What did he do differently? He used a technique called strategic chumming. But it's not about throwing a bunch of food into the water like an idiot thinking it will attract fish. That scares fish away. It's a calculated attraction system that creates a chemical trail that fish can't biologically ignore. You throw tiny amounts of attractant at specific intervals and calculated positions. This creates a scent road that guides the fish directly to your bait. When they arrive, they're not just curious. They're in active, competitive feeding mode. Their nervous system is firing signals of food available, go now, or another fish will get it. That's why the hookup conversion rate is absurd. You're not waiting for a fish to pass by chance, and decide to bite. You brought it there in a state of active hunger. This technique is just one of the many that the industry doesn't want you to know. I've compiled everything they hide in the book, High-Level Fishing, The Water Game. There you'll find practical freshwater and saltwater fishing techniques, how to quickly identify productive zones without wasting time in dead spots, fish structure, and where the fish really are, current, tide, and water flow. The invisible engine that controls fishing, positioning, and angle of attack. What decides more than the lure? Fish behavior patterns, how to predict where they will be, real-time decision-making, stop trying and start deciding, and the mindset of a high-level fisherman, the difference between amateur and professional. All in one place, no fluff, straight to the point. The link is in the description. Now I'm going to show you exactly how the science behind this works. Fish have an absurdly sensitive olfactory system. Absurdly sensitive, really. They have structures called olfactory rosettes full of chemical receptors. A bass has about 500,000 receptor cells. A catfish can have over 1 million. These receptors detect amino acids dissolved in water at concentrations so low that they defy human comprehension. We're talking about detecting one molecule in billions of water molecules. To give you an idea, if you put a drop of blood in a 26,000-gallon tank, a shark could smell it. Freshwater fish have similar sensitivity to specific compounds. When you throw in a properly prepared attractant, it releases these compounds in concentric waves that expand through the water. The first wave reaches fish 50, 60, sometimes 80 feet away, depending on the current and water temperature. They detect it, and the brain processes it. Food source identified. They begin to move towards the source of the smell. 5 minutes later, you throw another small amount in the same pattern. Now you have fish arriving from the first wave, and a new wave reaching more distant fish that hadn't detected it yet. You repeat this 3 or 4 times. In 20 minutes, you've created a funnel of fish converging on your point from multiple directions. It's not a solitary fish that happened to pass by. It's groups of fish responding to a biological trigger. The chemistry is straightforward and proven. When animal protein decomposes in water, it releases specific nitrogenous compounds: L-serine, L-alanine, betaine, nucleotides like inosine monophosphate and guanosine monophosphate. These are exactly the same compounds that natural prey release when they are injured or feeding. When a bait fish is attacked by a predator and bleeds, it releases these amino acids into the water. The brains of bass, catfish, and trout have evolved over millions of years to react instantly to this. It's not learned. It's instinct ingrained in their DNA. They sense these compounds, and their nervous system triggers automatic responses. Food available, prey vulnerable, feeding opportunity, go now. It's a biological trigger that works in bass, catfish, trout, crappie, walleye, virtually any predatory or opportunistic freshwater species. You're not trying to trick the fish. You're activating its biological programming. Old fishermen in the southern United States had been using this for over 60 years. In Alabama, catfish fishermen on the Tombigbee River did it every night. In Mississippi, veterans of Lake Sardis mastered this technique. In Louisiana, in the bayous near Lafayette, it was standard knowledge. It was passed down from father to son like a family secret. The old men didn't publish it in magazines. They didn't sell courses. They simply used it, caught fish, and kept their mouths shut. They didn't know the names of the chemical compounds. They hadn't studied the molecular biology of fish. But they knew it worked. They observed patterns over decades. They prepared small balls of dough with chicken blood, liver, and leftover fish scraps from cleaning. They threw 3 or 4 of these balls into the spot before fishing. They waited 10, 15 minutes. They cast their bait, and they caught fish. Every damn day. It didn't matter if it was Monday, Thursday, or Sunday. It didn't matter if it was windy, if it had rained the night before, if the barometric pressure was high or low. They created the conditions for success instead of relying on random natural circumstances. Now you're going to learn how to prepare this from scratch. You need very little, and it costs almost nothing. Chicken liver costs less than $2 a pound at any supermarket. Canned sardines are available for $1 to $1.50. Stale bread you have at home that you were going to throw away. Instant oatmeal, about 50 cents a package that lasts for months. Total? Less than $5, and you make enough bait for 3 or 4 weeks of fishing. Take a pound of chicken liver, cut it into small half-inch pieces. It doesn't need to be perfect. Approximate is fine. Mash 3 whole sardines with a fork in a bowl. Oil, bones, everything. The ground bones add calcium and texture. Mix everything with 2 cups of instant oatmeal. The oatmeal absorbs the liquids and creates a workable consistency. Add crumbled bread. 2 slices of stale bread is enough until it has the texture of a moist dough. It can't be soggy, as it will fall apart in the water too soon. It can't be too dry, as it won't release its compounds. The right consistency is when you can form a ball that holds its shape when you squeeze it, but if you press with your thumb, it gives way and leaves a mark. It forms balls the size of a ping-pong ball, maybe a little smaller. You'll make about 20 or 25 balls with this recipe. That's all. 5 inexpensive ingredients, 15 minutes of work. But here's the secret that makes all the difference. You don't use it immediately. Put these balls in a gallon-sized Ziploc bag, remove as much air as possible, seal it, and leave it in the refrigerator for 12 hours, ideally 24 hours. Why? Controlled decomposition at low temperature begins to break down the proteins into free amino acids. Natural enzymes present in the liver, and sardines begin to work. When you use it the next day, the effect of releasing compounds is maximized. Water can dissolve and carry these amino acids much more efficiently than if you used fresh dough. If you want to store it for longer because you made a larger quantity, freeze it in portions. It lasts up to 3 months frozen without losing effectiveness. Thaw naturally the day before fishing. In the refrigerator, use within 5 or 6 days. After that, the smell becomes too strong, even for you, and the decomposition goes beyond the ideal point. Want to boost and create an even more aggressive attractant? Add a tablespoon of molasses or cheap corn syrup. Glucose amplifies the fish's olfactory detection. They have specific receptors for dissolved sugars, and interpret this as high-energy, high-calorie food. In evolutionary terms, calories are survival. Fish are programmed to seek out dense calorie sources. Or add half a can of wet cat food, the cheap $0.70 toitalset kind. Cat food has a high concentration of taurine, and bass, catfish, and walleye are especially sensitive to taurine. It's an amino acid they associate with live prey. Add half a teaspoon of garlic powder. Garlic releases sulfur compounds that disperse quickly in the water and act as a range amplifier for the attractant. You've just created a 3-layer system. Smell activated by amino acids and taurine, taste activated by the glucose and fats in the sardines, and visual stimulation from the particles dissolving and creating a milky cloud in the water. 3 senses of the fish, activated simultaneously. This is not just an attractant. It's a sensory bomb. Now the question you must be asking is, if this works so incredibly well, why don't fishing stores teach you? Why do sponsored videos on YouTube never mention it? Simple. It completely destroys their business model. The sport fishing industry moves over $50 billion a year in the United States alone. artificial lures, electronics, boats, trailers, everything included. But a huge part of that comes from consumables, synthetic attractants, sprays, gels, dips. They sell a spray of synthetic attractant for $15, $18, sometimes $20 for a 4-ounce bottle. One bottle lasts 3-4 fishing trips if you use it according to their instructions. You spend $5 on natural ingredients and make enough attractant for 20-25 fishing trips. Do the math. $20 every 3 fishing trips versus $5 every 25 fishing trips. If every recreational fisherman in the United States knew this and stopped buying store-bought attractant, half the shelves would be empty. Millions of dollars in unsold product. They need to convince you that you need their scientific product, that natural doesn't work as well, that their patented proprietary formulation with special pheromones and sustained release technology is superior. But the inconvenient truth: chicken liver that cost $1.80 performs better than the $18 synthetic gel. Because it's real. Because it has the exact compounds that fish have evolved over millions of years to detect and respond to. Synthetic tries to imitate that. Natural. That's it. When using bait in the water, technique is just as important as the attractant. You take 6 to 8 balls for a half-day fishing trip, about 12 balls if you're going to be fishing all day. When you arrive at your chosen spot, before casting any rod, you perform the setup. Throw 2 balls about 30 feet from the shore if you're fishing from the shore, or 30 feet from the boat if you're fishing from a boat. 1 ball at 10 o'clock, another at 2 o'clock relative to where you are. This creates 2 initial sources of chemical release. Wait 5 minutes. There's no rush. Let the compounds begin to disperse. Sometimes you literally see the milky cloud spreading if the water is clear. After 5 minutes, throw another ball in the center, between the first 2, about 25 feet from you. Now you have a release triangle. Wait another 2 or 3 minutes. Now you can cast your bait in the center of this zone. The bait is literally swimming in a soup of amino acids and attractant compounds. When a fish detects the trail and begins to approach, it doesn't just find the bait. It finds a whole field of chemical stimuli that confirm food here, multiple sources, great opportunity. Every 15-20 minutes, add another ball. Keep the trail active and strong. The fish that arrived from the first wave stay in the area because they continue to detect the release of compounds. They don't leave. New fish continue to arrive from subsequent chemical waves. You have created an artificial feeding zone that perpetuates itself as long as you maintain the system. It works best at specific times of day. Early morning, between 5:30 and 8:30 a.m. is prime time. The fish's metabolism is accelerated after nightfall. Water temperature is starting to rise as the sun rises. They are actively searching for food to replenish energy. When they detect your chemical trail, the response is instantaneous and aggressive. They don't hesitate, they simply come. Late afternoon also works extremely well, from 4:30 p.m. until sunset or a little later. Fish instinctively know that night is coming and take advantage of the last moments of good light to feed. Avoid midday on hot summer days, when the water temperature exceeds 78-80 degrees. Bass and most species become lethargic. They bury themselves in deep structures, under logs, in the shade, conserving energy. Your chemical trail reaches them, they detect it, but the motivation to move and expend energy is very low. It's not worth it. The exception is catfish, which remains active even in warm water. For catfish, use this technique at night. They are nocturnal by nature, and that's when they become most aggressive. Water type also makes a difference. Still water or water with a weak current is ideal. Lake, reservoir, river with little flow, canals, marina. Compounds disperse at a controlled and predictable rate. You can create and maintain the attraction zone. If there is too much current, the amino acids disperse too quickly. The concentration drops. Fish with the current detect for longer, but fish against the current or on the sides may not detect anything. Solution: throw more balls more frequently. Adjust the interval to 8-10 minutes instead of 15-20, and position the balls in line with the current, creating a trail that flows directly to where your bait is. In very cold water, below 50 degrees, the metabolism of all species slows down drastically. They still detect the compounds, the biology continues to function, but they take longer to respond. They won't swim 60 feet to investigate. Maybe they'll swim 20-30 if you're very close. Double the initial waiting time. Throw the balls. Wait 10-12 minutes before casting. This gives nearby fish time to approach slowly, and it reduces the coverage area. Instead of 30 feet, you work with 15 or 20 feet. Which species respond best to this technique? Bass, without a doubt. Largemouth bass and smallmouth bass are olfactory detection machines. They live to ambush prey, and this technique simulates an ambush opportunity exactly. Catfish are obviously absurd. They're basically swimming noses. Channel catfish, blue catfish, flathead, all respond aggressively. Crappies, especially black crappies, respond very well. They are schooling fish, so when one detects and comes, the others follow. You catch multiple crappies quickly. Trout also works, especially rainbow trout and brown trout in lakes and reservoirs. River trout in strong currents is more difficult for the reasons I explained. Walleye in lakes with low visibility, murky waters, respond extremely well because they rely much more on smell than sight. Pike and muskie, which are ambush predators, also work, but you need to use larger balls and a greater quantity of liver because they need a stronger stimulus. The number one mistake most anglers make when trying this: throwing too much bait at once, thinking more is better. They throw 5 or 6 balls at once. This completely saturates the area. The fish arrive, get confused because there's a smell of food coming from everywhere, can't pinpoint a specific source, and can't identify your bait amidst so much olfactory stimulation. It's like entering a kitchen with 10 different pans cooking and being asked to identify where the smell of garlic is coming from. Difficult, right? Less is more. Small balls, controlled amounts, regular intervals, simple geometric pattern. This keeps the trail clear and focused, and your bait becomes the natural focal point of the investigation. Mistake number 2: using this technique and not staying still. You've just intentionally created a funnel of fish coming towards you. If you keep walking along the bank, changing position every 5 minutes, rearranging equipment, making noise banging your tackle box, you scare away everything that was coming. Fish sense vibrations in the water through the lateral line. Noise on the bank is transmitted to the water. The shadow of your moving body is projected onto the water on a clear day, and fish see it. Position yourself carefully, execute the chumming strategy, and stay still. Let the system work on its own. Your only movement is casting and retrieving smoothly. This isn't paranoia. Fish don't think, "This looks like a trap," because they don't have the cognitive capacity for that. But they do have anti-predator instincts: sudden movement, strange vibration, a large shadow appearing. This triggers escape behavior. You want to trigger feeding behavior, not escape. And remember, if you want to completely master the game of fishing, it's all in high-level fishing, the water game. There you'll learn to read freshwater and saltwater in practice, identify productive zones in seconds without wasting time in dead spots, Understand structure and where the fish are really hiding. Current, tide, and water flow. How to use the force of nature to your advantage. Positioning and angle of attack that matter more than any expensive lure. Fish behavior patterns. How to predict where they will be before you get there. Real-time decision-making. Stop guessing and start deciding based on information. And the mindset of a high-level fisherman. The real difference between an amateur who depends on luck and a professional who creates consistency. The link is in the first pinned comment. It's the knowledge that the industry tried to bury because they can't sell it, now available to you. Now, seriously consider what will change in your next fishing trip with this information. While other anglers arrive at the lake and spend $60, $80 on expensive artificial lures that only work when the fish decide they want to bite, you spend $5 on ingredients that create a biological chemical advantage. You're not waiting for the fish to be willing. You're activating the will in them. In 30 minutes of applying the technique correctly, you have fish converging on your spot from multiple directions. It's not luck. It's not a natural gift. It's not $5,000 equipment. It's applied science with traditional knowledge that has worked for over 60 years. Your friends will ask what the secret is when they see you catching 3 times more than them in the same lake. You decide whether to tell them or keep this advantage to yourself. But now, you know it exists. The fishing industry works 24/7 to convince you that you need expensive technology, sophisticated electronics, $30 Japanese lures, $400 high-modulus graphite rods to fish well and consistently, $800 sonar that maps the bottom, GPS with detailed maps. But old-school fishermen who never had any of that caught more fish than most modern fishermen with $10,000 worth of equipment on their boat. Why? Because they deeply understood fish behavior. They observed patterns over decades of life in the water. They used the natural chemistry of the water, the flow, the temperature, everything to their advantage. They actively created situations where the fish came to them instead of chasing fish. When you learn this, when you truly understand the principles, you stop depending on marketing and start depending on knowledge. Fishing ceases to be about having the most expensive equipment and becomes about understanding the aquatic environment and using every available element to your advantage. That is real power. What will really change on your next fishing trip now that you have this knowledge? Will you continue doing what you've always done, relying on expensive products that promise results but deliver inconsistency? Or will you apply a technique that has worked since the 1960s, that biology proves, that costs almost nothing, and that literally creates conditions for success instead of waiting for perfect conditions to appear? The choice is entirely yours. No one can do it for you. But now you know there is a different way. A way that the old fishermen of Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana knew and mastered, and that the modern industry desperately wants you to forget because they can't package and sell it for $29.99. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. Because what I'm going to show you next week is even more controversial and effective than this, and it will make you question everything you've ever been taught about fishing.